So those are RF900 carbs. It's going to be a very basic service. I'm not going to take the whole set apart, meaning that I'll have 4 separate carburetors on the table. This is a spare set. Just here I've got my carbs taken over my own motorcycle. Those have been dyno jetted and they are fairly clean. Make sure you're using the right screwdriver, and for that job you want this type of thing, which is JIS screwdrivers. This stands for Japanese Industry Screwdrivers. So with those, for Japanese carbs, man, you're so much safer. You're not risking mincing any of those screws. So let's start from the bottom. And the way I do it is I will go ahead and take apart 3 carburetors, 1, 2, 3, and leave the 4th one untouched until I'm done with all of those. And the reason for that is if I was struggling with remembering what part goes where, you can always open the last carburetor and use it as a reference point. And of course, you can use your mobile phone and take pictures during disassembly. So seriously, you just cannot go wrong with it. Anyway, so I'm going to start with this carb here. I hope you can see what's going on here. So I'm going to be removing, there's 2 screws supporting the float bolts on each carburetor. So just get these off. Okay, so we're keeping all the screws in a safe place over there. Look at this mess, man. Isn't it just ridiculous? Wow. So however, in the process of disassembly, you're gonna see this is your float. And now let's have a look at the jets. So this here in the middle is your main jet. This on the left is your starter jet. So this is basically your choke. That's associated with your choke. And this here inside, deep inside, is going to be your pilot jet. So, firstly, let's take the float apart. So if you grab a flat screwdriver and very, very gently pull this pin out. There we go. I really hope you can see this. So I'm pulling this pin out. There we go. Let's put this away. And that's going to release your float. So that's your float. Look at this shit on it. It's unbelievable, isn't it? There's going to be a lot of cleaning. And inside here, let's just magnify it. Inside here, you've got your needle valve. So that's what it looks like. That's your needle valve. Okay, then, man, just have a look at this shit inside the carb. Isn't it incredible? Wow. So now down here, you grab your JIS screwdriver once again, and you're going to have to remove that little screw here, which holds this little mesh filter. I'll show you what's in there in a minute. Let's just try to unscrew it without damaging it. Now, to remove that, you've got to be extremely gentle, because this is made of plastic. There's a little O-ring over there as well. So if you just try to wiggle it using circular motion, there we go, comes out. So you can see there's a little mesh filter at the top and O-ring here. That black thing is made of rubber. And the thing is, when you're doing your carb rebuild, this is not a rebuild what I'm doing. I'm just doing a clean, and you know, apart from O-rings on the main jets, I'm gonna be leaving all the other rubber parts in it. But you're obviously very much encouraged to replace all the rubber parts in your carb once you've taken it apart. You know, this is a spare set for me, so I'm not gonna bother with replacing the O-rings. This is just for spares. Right, so removing the jets. Okay, here inside is going to be your pilot jet, and to remove this you need a flat screwdriver, which is very thin. Put it in and try to feel. There we go. It went in. Bit of a pressure. So let's now remove all the jets. There we go, so this is your pilot jet, that's what it looks like. Alright, so removing the main jet, you're going to have to use the 8mm spanner to hold the jet like this. And then put a screwdriver in and turn it. Oh, it doesn't want to come out. Actually, you're better off removing the starter's jet first, because then you've got more room to work on the main jet. So here's your starter jet. This is the one that is the most protruding from the carb. Okay, they're all dirty, they're all stuff, but we'll clean it later. First of all, it's disassembly. Right. So this is going to be your main jet. Well, the actual jet is this top bit here. That's your main jet. And in a stock RF, so this is your main jet and that's your jet's holder. And in the stock RF, this is 112.5 when it comes to its size. So that's a stock jet. But then when you go with dyno jet kit, you've got bigger jets. I think they go 114, 118 and 120, I believe. I might be wrong with the biggest one, but definitely 114 and definitely 118. Here we've got the jet holder for the main jet. And as you can see, hopefully, here you've got this rubber O-ring, which has to be replaced when you're putting the carbs back together. Right, if you're unsure about which type of jet you're dealing with, because actually starter jet is quite similar in shape to the main jet, you will see at the very front of the jet, it should say 112.5, and that's going to be your main jet. To remove this bit here, let me turn it. You will need a tiny little 7mm socket or a spanner like this. Put it on, unscrew it, and lift it. Right, pay attention that there's going to be a little washer here, copper washer, which I suggest for the time of disassembly you take off, because then you're sure you're not going to lose it. You see this bit here? So if you just grab it and try to wiggle it, it should come off. There's a little gasket underneath it. There we go. So that bit comes off. And as you can see, it's got those little channels here. And that is for the gasket. That is right here. Right, let's turn it around. Same deal here. So that top cap, which covers the diaphragm, is held by 2 screws. So you remove those 2 screws, again using the right type of screwdriver. Now taking this cap off, be careful because there's a spring over there. There we go. So here you've got your diaphragm. So take this off. We don't want to tear anything here. Quick inspection of this diaphragm. You'll see that it's in a very good condition. No tears. Fantastic. So then here you've got the piston, and that's your needle. To take the needle out, you basically push at the bottom and it will come up. Okay, grab it here at the top, invert it. There we go. You can put the diaphragm away. Now you can see it's all empty inside. Nothing there. Let's put that away. And here we have it. So this is your needle. And a couple of washers, clips, and other bits and bobs. And now this is what's really important. You've got to keep it in the same order. Now this plastic bit here, you can actually remove it as well. So just stick your finger in. Stick your finger in. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Okay, you remove that. Look what's inside. Can you see this? Can you see this crap inside? Well, that's pretty much it when it comes to disassembly of a carburetor. Obviously, you could go a lot further and separate all those four and clean them thoroughly. Let's just get this gasket off. Trying not to tear it. Just gently prying it. And now it's time for a carb cleaner. Clean everything the best you can. What you can't forget about is cleaning this little orifice here. This is where the little mesh filter goes in. Make sure there is no crap over there. You can also use compressed air. Okay man, so let's have a look. That looks pretty darn good to me. Okay, let's turn it around and let's clean this section here. And let's go ahead. Bit of compressed air. Look at this man. Doesn't it look just great? Now let's put this away and let's have a look at the float ball. Now that looks pretty terrible, to be honest. But what I can see is that this is all very dry and loose. So hopefully, just a bit of a gentle work with the screwdriver will get it all off. Let's have a look. Okay, let's just compare what the float ball looks like after cleaning and before. So I'm just going to remove another one. Right, okay, so obviously this carb hasn't been done. Plenty of shit in there. That's what it looks like before the clean, and that's what it looks like after the clean. Okay, so I cleaned all four float bowls. So have a look inside, they're pretty clean now. And now, when it comes to those gaskets on the float bowls, obviously you're highly encouraged to replace them to make sure there's going to be no leaks. But I will tell you that I did my GSXR 1100 carbs and my RF 900 carbs, and I reused them. Depending on their condition, you know, if they're not really perished, in my personal humble opinion, you can reuse them, but you know, you're doing it at your own risk. So let's remove the float from that carb here. But before I do it, this is what you want. You want your floats to nicely bounce like this. Look what's going on here. That is dead. Why? Because obviously there's tons of crap and dirt over there. Okay, another important aspect. So in your float, where you've got this hole in which you put your pin in, just here, make sure that is nice and clean as well, so then the float can freely rotate on that pin. So clean both the pin and inside of that hole. And what you'll find useful is those carb cleaning tools, because they've got those tiny little brushes at the end of the wire, and this is just ideal for cleaning small orifices like this one here. Then we've got this bit here. As you can see, there's some discoloration from old stale fuel, so let's spray it. Another thing you've got to clean is the inner part of this bit. Spray all this with a carb cleaner. So every orifice has to get its fair share of cleaner. Then grab one of those carb cleaning brushes. The whole kit can be purchased on eBay for about like £5, and there's many sizes of those brushes. As you can see, there are bigger ones, smaller ones there. So it's ideal for cleaning stuff like this. For the pilot orifice. Okay. Now some compressed air. Next bit is this here, and if you have a closer look, you might actually see that inside there, see here in this hole, see this crap there? All that crap has to be removed. And for that job, obviously spraying once again with carb cleaner. And we can use those brushes, which are just ideal to get all the shit away. Have a look at this, man. You see light through it? Brilliant. Now spray the whole body and nicely wipe it off. Those are our jets. So starting from the left, this here, that's the main jet with the jet holder. In the middle we've got the pilot jet, and this is our starter jet. And all of those are very, very dirty. They are far from clean. So, good idea is to chuck them in a little bath of carb cleaner, like this, and let them sit there for some time. So this is your main jet here, and as you can see, you've got those little holes in it. Alright, so before you actually put the jet in, grab a little wire, very, very, very thin wire, and make sure this wire goes through all those little holes. Because sometimes you're gonna have some crap in there. Those are tiny little orifices, and the fuel might not go in through the way it should. All the bits and bobs in those carbs are pretty clean. So let's now go ahead with reassembly. For those, they can only go in one way, so you can't really mess it up. So put it all in. Now you reinstall the diaphragms, but before that let's just make sure that our needles go in. Remember, all the bits and bobs at the top of the needle have to be in exactly the same order as before. So you put that in. Okay, so you put the needle in, lower it gently, because the top ring likes to come off if you just drop it. That's cool, we've got it. And obviously the piston can only go in one way. It's got those fins here on the side. So that's a simple job. You basically put it in. And make sure, hopefully you can see this, that the needle goes in that hole in there. And the next one. And let's just make sure that the diaphragm sits exactly where it should. It should nicely sit in this groove here. And the last one, the caps. Let's not forget that on the caps you're gonna have tiny O-rings here. You see this here? There's like a very little O-ring here. So let's make sure that those O-rings actually go where they have to. And they go down here. So put it there. It's the first one. Second one. The last one. That's cool. And this is going to be a tricky part. Installing those is always a pain in the ass. At least I find myself having a difficulty with it. Because first of all, you might pinch the diaphragm, which you don't want. And second of all, this spring never wants to stay there. But let's see. Hopefully this is going to work for me. And you've got it. Now you've got to hold it, put the screws in. And you're of course making sure that you haven't pinched the diaphragm by putting the cap on. So let's just have a look around it. Seems to be pretty good. And now just test if the spring operates the way it should. So it basically should bounce. So let's turn it around. Okay, so now putting these back on. Do you remember we had those gaskets? So put the gasket back on. Like this. Once again, you are highly encouraged to use brand new gaskets for every single component in the carburetors, but for me, that's all good. I'm gonna reuse it. Put it back on. Excellent. Got the gasket on. Another one went in. Excellent. And the last one. Up next, we have those little washers that need to go in here. Now we've got those bits and bobs. So this goes on here, this goes on here, this goes on here, and the screw on top of it. Right, now reinstalling the little mesh filter, but before we do that, we can actually take the filter off. As you can see, there's a little mesh filter which I've taken off, and you thoroughly clean this inside as well. Look how clean it is inside. Can you see this? That's how you want it. So once it's clean, put this little cap on. Right, so you've got the filter on, and once again, those O-rings, ideally you want to have them new. I'll just get a tad of engine oil just to smear the O-ring. And that way there is a less risk of damaging the O-ring. Okay, another one. Let's put the filter back on. There we go. So at that point we can go ahead with the floats. And of course, let's not forget about our little needle valve. So you've got this little tongue here, and your needle valve goes on it like this. Once you've got your needle valve on the tongue, it's going to be difficult to show. Let's maybe do it like this. There we go. You now grab a pin. Put it in. And it's in. And let's just have a look if the operation of it is okay. So if you hold it here, it's bouncing nicely. That's exactly what we want. Now the little securing screw, adequate screwdriver, only JIS. Screws in. We get another float and another needle valve. Excellent. Now grab a pin. And install it. Bouncing nicely. Okay, and the last one. And all we have to do now from this end is put in those little screws here at the back, which will secure the filter or needle valve seat. We're in. Let's just double check the operation of floats. Excellent. Alright folks, so now time for the jets. So in this float ball I've got all the jets which I've just taken out from this, we'll call it little bath. It was a bath in carburetor cleaner. So let's start with the most sensitive jets, I would say. So those are the pilot jets. That's what they look like. So before you put it in, before you install it, you absolutely have to make sure that you can actually see through them. I can see light through it. I don't know if you can, but I definitely can. So the second one also goes in here. Little resistance. Excellent. And the last pilot. Up next is the starter jet. It's the one that protrudes the most. It's a small jet. The same rule applies. As long as you can see some light through it, that means you're good. Hopefully you can see this. Yep. Okay, so your starter jet goes in here. There we go. Right, so now we've got the main jets. Now when it comes to the main jets, as you can see on that one, they've got this O-ring here. And this is totally perished, look, it's just gonna break. So that has to be replaced. And I've got 4 new O-rings here. So just put the O-ring there. Like that. Another main jet, put the O-ring on, like that. And the last one. That goes in here. Another very important thing to mention before we finish this video is that your float heights have to be set at certain value. And for stock RF900 this should be around 7 millimeters. So in this video I'm not going to bother with this because that was purely for cleaning the carbs and taking them apart. So for now I think I can just put the float bolt back on. And once again, these gaskets, I mean, you're more than welcome to replace it with brand new ones. For me, they're kind of okay for now, so I'll keep them as they are. the screws. And that's it, job done. Of course, from outside these carbs don't look extremely clean, but it doesn't really matter, because what matters is they've got to be clean inside to perform. Thanks for watching, till next time.